I'm a female, and I worked at McDonald's during my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college. This story took place my first year working there, only a few days onto the job. It was my first job ever, and I remember one time I was working on a busy weeknight. When things finally got quiet, I was asked to go mop the floors. I mopped around the front of the restaurant and then made my way to the back. When I got towards the back and was almost done, I noticed there was one man sitting in the back corner of the restaurant. As I mopped sort of near him, he said hi to me. I said hi, and the man then asked me what time I got off of work that night. I told the man I was getting off pretty soon and then went back to mopping. He asked me what I was doing after work, and I responded that I was going to my friend's house, which happened to be a lie, but this guy was kind of creeping me out, so I made something up. I could feel the man just watching me as I did, and he was just constantly watching me for several minutes after that. It was really starting to creep me out. I was finally done mopping, and shortly after that, I could go home. I left the restaurant and noticed that the man was still sitting in the corner as I did. I was relieved that he didn't try to follow me out or anything like that. I went home and got ready for bed, as it was a school night and about 10 p.m. I got into bed and started watching some shows on the TV in my bedroom. I would say about an hour or so later, I was beginning to get really sleepy and turned off my light. When my light got turned off, it revealed that on the other side of my bedroom window, there was a shadow. I had a shade covering the window, but if it was dark out, you could sort of see shadows on the other side of it. Usually, there was the shadow of a tree that was on the side of the window and a bush on the other one, but now there was a large shadow right smack in the middle, and it appeared to be a person. I got a bad feeling immediately, and slowly pushed the shades down a little bit. All I needed was about 1 inch of space to see that there was a man right outside of my window. I jumped back and screamed as loud as I could. I could see the shadow moving, and a couple of seconds later, my parents came running into the room. I was freaking out, but once my parents understood, my dad ran outside. Unfortunately, the man was long gone by the time he got out there, and he didn't see any sign of him. When he came back inside, my mom had already called the police, and I told him all about the creepy guy at McDonald's. After the police came and we spoke with them, we went to the McDonald's the next day. Luckily, I never saw the man again. I almost quit McDonald's after that, but decided to stick with it and worked there for 2 years. That remains the scariest story I have from my time working there. I've been to McDonald's many times. I try to avoid eating fast food and stick to a healthy diet, but more often than not, I find myself really hungry and tired after work, late at night. There's always a McDonald's nearby, plus I love their French fries. One night, about a year ago, I had just finished another long shift at work, and by the time I was done, it was just after 11 o'clock. At this hour, there weren't many options, and as I was driving, I saw a McDonald's sign on the side of the road. I had planned to make some food at home, but about halfway through the drive, I realized how hungry I was, so that's when I decided to stop. I pulled off on the next exit and went into the parking lot of McDonald's. This was a McDonald's that I hadn't been to before. There was one close to where I worked and another near where I lived, but this one was kind of in a middle distance between the two. After I got into the parking lot, I pulled around to the drive-thru. When I got closer, I realized that no other cars were in the drive-thru at all. I was happy about this because I wouldn't have to wait long. But when I got to the speaker of the drive-thru, I noticed there was a piece of paper taped to it. It said the drive-thru was out of order and you had to go inside. I was a little disappointed but decided that I would go inside. I saw a couple of other cars in the parking lot and parked my car, then got out to walk in. As I got to the door, I went to open it, but it was locked. At around the same time, I realized it was locked. I heard some noises from nearby. I looked in the direction of the noise and saw a bush on the side of the building move and a man walk out from behind it. Then I saw another man emerge from behind another bush. I started to back away, and one of the men yelled at me to stay where I was. I turned and ran back to my car out of instinct, but as I was running, I felt myself being grabbed from behind by the shoulder. I fell over, and as I did, whoever was chasing me fell too. As we both fell to the ground, he lost grip of me for a second, and I got up and got to my car. From there, I quickly went inside and locked the door. The man got up and ran to try to get in, and I saw the other man ran to another car that was parked nearby in the parking lot. What happened next surprised me. The man who had gotten inside the car put it in reverse, and then sped over to my car and rammed into the back of it. The collision moved my car a little and damaged the back quite a bit. As the other man banged on my window, I put it into drive and ran over the curb and up into the grass. Luckily, I did drive an SUV, which had four-wheel drive, so I knew it was capable of this, and the men appeared to only have standard cars. The other man ran back to another car and got inside of it as the man who had rammed into the back of me with his car started to drive up the curb behind me. I frantically drove out of the parking lot and onto the road. Once I had made it on, I dialed 911, and as I was out of breath, tried my best to describe the situation. The men in their cars were not able to drive up the curb as easily as me, which gave me some space. I made sharp turns at every opportunity until I was sure they weren't following me anymore. I ended up being pulled over by a police officer who heard about what had happened and saw my damaged car. I got a ride home and told him the whole story. I also had to have my car towed to a shop. Looking back, I don't know what happened to those men, but they had to be completely insane to try to attack me like that. My car ended up being totaled, and I got another one, but I haven't been back to that McDonald's location since. I used to work at McDonald's from the time I was 16 to the time I was 20. I worked there part-time. It's crazy to look back on it and think that I really worked there for almost 5 years. It was a really good job, though, and I didn't mind it as I'm good at talking to people and being around customers. I have a lot of memories working there, but I have one that sticks out more than the rest. It happened during my last year of working there. It was actually one of my last months having that job as well. I was working a closing shift, and after we were done working, I cleaned with my co-worker Alex, and then we both left. By this time, it was a little while after midnight, and we locked up the place and both got into our cars in the parking lot. As we were leaving, we noticed a man walking through the parking lot. The guy looked pretty average and asked if we were still open. I told him, "No, sorry, but we just closed a little while ago." The guy seemed disappointed and then asked us if we could give him a ride home. Obviously, this struck us both as strange, and we said no to the man. The man then walked away past us into another area of the parking lot. There were a few other businesses which had parking lots sort of connected with ours, so it wasn't all that odd for someone to walk through it, and we both went on with our nights. I went to my car and got inside, then checked my phone as I typically did after work. I waved goodbye to Alex as he drove away, and then I replied to a couple of texts. After I was done, I put my phone away and then put my car into reverse. But as I was just about to back up, I noticed something in my rearview mirror, and I just about had a heart attack. The man who had talked to us in the parking lot earlier was now standing directly behind my car, staring right at me. He had a smile on his face, and we made eye contact. When we did, he waved. I couldn't back up or else I would hit him. He then proceeded to get on the rear of my car and sit there, and then pressed his hands and face up against the back of my car window. I was really freaked out. I rolled down my window just a crack and asked the man if he could get off of my car so I could leave. The man responded by laughing loudly. He then got up and kicked at my rear window. I yelled that if he didn't leave, I would call the police. The man responded by running to my rear driver's side door and trying to open it. Once this happened, I quickly backed out, careful not to hit the man, and drove away. I was able to make it home and was just happy I got away from the guy. I texted Alex about the situation, and we agreed that the next time we closed together, we would leave at the same time so something like this didn't happen again. This happened last year when I went to a McDonald's in California. I was hungry and stopped to get a Big Mac and fries. It was about 9 o'clock at night, and the place was surprisingly quiet. When I entered the McDonald's, I saw that it had an electronic touchscreen where you could place an order. So I walked over to one and tapped it to start. I began looking through the menu for the items that I wanted. I got them and looked around for a minute or two to see if there was anything else that I wanted. All of a sudden, the screen went black for a second and then came back. When it came back, there was a line on the screen as if it was damaged or cracked. I thought this was strange, but overall, it seemed to still be working. I continued until only a few seconds later it went black again. This time, a message in a creepy font appeared on the screen. It said, "You're in trouble." I was totally freaked out, and a sudden bad feeling came over me. The screen once again went black and then returned to its normal state. I didn't really care to keep ordering and decided to just cancel my order and leave. I got food somewhere else that night, but a few weeks later I found myself in the same area, but this time it was during the day. I was feeling brave, and I went back to the same McDonald's location, sort of out of curiosity. I walked inside, but noticed right away that the touch screens for ordering were no longer there. I then walked to the counter where someone asked me if I would like to order. I asked the person working behind the counter what happened to the touch screen ordering. The man working told me that they did not have it at this location. I told him I had been there a few weeks earlier, and I had used it. The man responded by saying that they had never had touch screens at this location. I couldn't believe it. I knew for a fact this was the same location that I had been to. I left wondering what exactly had happened the last time I had been there.